There is this whole website called killedbygoogle.com, and they aim to highlight products, services, etc., anything they can find that Google has killed. They have stopped supporting or ended, however you want to put it. And call me a Google apologist if you want to, but I think that most of these are pretty sort of minimal. I think that this whole idea of Google's graveyard gets blown out of proportion like quite a bit. Like, here's just, I'm not going to go through all these, so just be patient with me for just a second. But straight away, like Chromecast. Oh, they've killed Chromecast. Yeah, but like they've moved on to a new product, right? They've got new Google TV stuff. So Chromecast is dead, but the new Google TV things have Chromecast built in. They've moved on. That product doesn't really make sense in 2024. So yeah, it's dead, but it was replaced with something that encapsulates what it was going to be doing. Now, there are some that are a little bit annoying. VPN by Google, that's one that's a bit annoying. But again, I do think that by and large, this exhaustively long list is a little bit blown out of proportion because most of these things were either replaced with something newer and better, or they were things that no one was using. That being said, there are times where Google tinkers with things, and they have a terrible tendency to be tinkerers. They throw something out, and sometimes you go, that's pretty cool, and then they take it away because you were one of 3 people that were using it. And sometimes they just change products around seemingly for no reason, and you just are left scratching your head thinking, why have you done this? In this video, I'm going to list off a handful of my most annoying examples of Google's tinkering gone awry. So the first place we are looking is in Google Photos. They just will not stop moving things around, and it is driving me absolutely insane. I guess to really show this, what I need to do is I need to show you what it looked like before. So this is my Pixel 9 Pro XL, and what I've done is I've uninstalled the updates on Google Photos to revert a bunch of things. And I'm going to try to show you sort of side by side what they both look like. All right, how's that look? We have a classic we'll do it live moment. So let's say I want to get to my albums where I have organized some of my photos. In the past, I would simply click on library and I can see the photos that are on my device, and then boom, right there are my albums. It was super easy to get to them. If I want to get to my albums now, it is not that easy. You have to go into collections, and then you're looking for albums there. Okay, it is still pretty easy, but there's an additional step, and I don't know why we have created an additional step. I understand this whole collections thing, kind of organizing things, people and pets on this device, documents, places, that makes sense to me. But albums are like their own version of collections. So now they're nested one layer deep inside another collection. It's like albums inside albums. It doesn't make sense to me. They should be quicker, easier to access like they used to be. And there's more than just this. I do a lot of photo and video sharing through Google Photos as well. We have some automatically sharing albums. In the past, you can see sharing is right down there at the bottom. It's front and center. If you click on it, everything will start to populate. There's all of your little shared albums, so forth and so on. In the new Google Photos, I'm going to be honest with you, offhand, I don't know how to get to this. I think I'm going to have to actually poke around and look for it. I see no option here. Okay, so we have updates, and this shows what has happened with those shared albums. It's showing the new things that has happened to them, and I can then view that album through that. But where do I go to just see the shared albums? Is it under collections? I just want you to know that I literally had to Google it to find the answer to this question, which you are about to see. Okay, so apparently you go into updates, you click the 3 dots, and then you go to conversations, and that gets you to the same screen, more or less, that we had there. But that's not quite the same because I have these shared albums. Like this one, anytime I take a picture of Rutherford, it automatically adds it to this. So that's the conversations, but where's that album? I guess to get to those, you have to go to your albums and then find the shared albums. So they've basically split this into 2 different places. Why? Why? Why do this? Why make this more complicated? Just leave it alone. Here is another app that they just won't stop moving things on. It's YouTube Music. I think part of this is intentional because they want to kind of keep things churning so that you'll be looking at different things, listening to different music. But every time I open this app, things are moved around. For like a week and a half, my list right here of like my mixes, the mixed for me thing, it was just gone. I had no way to access it. It was nowhere to be found. It just popped back up. It's constantly shifting around and changing shape. So I open it up and I go to one of my mixed playlists, like my super mix, and I can't find it. And I got to scroll, I got to hunt for it, I got to look for it. I don't like that. Just leave everything in the same place, please. Another thing that kind of bugs me and bums me out is that they have shoved podcasts into YouTube Music. And I know that for some people this makes sense, right? They're both audio formats, but I don't think of podcasts and music as being the same thing at all. I don't want podcasts in my music application. Now, I will say that they do a pretty good job of not shoving podcasts into my face, but you can't use Google Podcasts anymore. That app is dead now. So if I do want to listen to podcasts through a Google application, I have to use YouTube Music. And that's just another thing. That's just me. I just don't like that. I just feel like they should be their own separate thing. And that's something that I wish they hadn't have tinkered with. They could have just left Google Podcasts alone, and that would have been totally fine. It's just weird to me to go into my library and there's my like music, here's my playlist, and then here's just new episodes of podcasts. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense in my head. Here's one that's probably near and dear to quite a few people watching this channel, subscribe to my channel. They released the original Pixel Fold, and it had this form factor that was very, very different from what pretty much everybody else was doing. It is much shorter and wider than a normal phone display, and as it was a foldable, when it opened up, it was wider than it was tall, like a true tablet. You got this really unique experience where you basically had what a lot of people have wanted, a compact flagship phone, which is smaller, right? So a smaller form factor phone, but then when you needed a bigger screen, you could open it up and you have a huge screen. And because it was a wider open screen like this, it kind of felt like Surface Duo. It was great for split screening applications. And then what did Google do? They started their normal tinkering and they completely changed everything about it with the second iteration. Gone is that, kind of short, wide aspect ratio, and instead what we have is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which looks like every other foldable on the planet. It is a normal phone screen on the front, and when you open it, what you get is basically a very large square. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this is a really good phone, and it has grown on me to some degree. Actually, I think it's very, very good. But man, I can't lie to you and say that I don't really miss this form factor. Every time I pick this thing up to do something with it, I actually test betas and things like that on it now. Every time I pick it up, I'm just like, I love this phone. I love this phone. They gave us one generation of this form factor, and then they started tinkering and they threw it out and they went to something completely different. And this one probably breaks my heart more than the other three on the list. So this last one is, I think, so endemic of Google's pointless tinkering. This is the controller for the Chromecast with Google TV. It is small, it is ergonomic, it is absolutely fine. And I used it for like, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, a long time. Okay, I used it in the living room, got used to it, it's good. Then I bought their new, what is it called? The Google TV streamer or something like that. And you look at it and you think, oh, it's the same controller. It's just a little bit bigger, right? They've just kind of made the thing a little bit larger. But here's the truth. Yes, it is larger. But the reason that it's larger is because they took the volume buttons that were on the side of the controller before and they moved them to the front of the device and put it just sort of in the middle of the other buttons. And because of this, a few months on now, I am still continuing to try and hit the volume on the side of the controller. It was a place you could feel it. You could find it in the dark. You didn't even have to look for it. Now it's right here with all these other buttons. My muscle memory is absolutely failing me. I don't know why. Why move the volume keys? We've gotten used to where they were, and then you just move them to the front of the controller for no reason. Like, again, this is endemic of Google's tinkering. They do things where you look at it and you just go, how is that better? It's just different. Different doesn't mean better. It's just different. And if you've put out a product and people have gotten used to things being a certain way, different needs to be an obvious improvement, or else it's actually bad. If it's neutral, if it doesn't improve the experience at all, it's bad because you've confused people. It has to be an obvious benefit. And so often Google does things that there is no obvious benefit. They're just moving things around for the sake of moving things around, and it drives me crazy. Guys, I'd love to hear from you, though, in the comments down below. Give me examples of this kind of stuff that you have dealt with as well, just the random tinkering of Google. Drop those comments. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.